Hey guys, what's up? Nick here once again, and today we're doing another tier list on the Twisted Metal levels, and today it's going to be on Twisted Metal Black. So let's get right into it. This is going to be my most difficult tier list for the series, and it's not just because Twisted Metal Black is my favorite game in the entire series, you guys already know that. The reason for why this is going to be very tough is because not only am I going to be as critical as I can be for this, but I am only going to allow one level to make it to the S tier rank. And I'm going to do that for, I think from now on, with any tier list that I do. I think it's only fair to only allow one to be the supreme S tier. I've been a little bit too gracious, I guess, with my picks from the last few tier lists, and I feel like there's just been too many S tiers. So, I have made the executive decision to only allow one. What will that one be? Let's find out. We're going to go from left to right here. I have every level in Twisted Metal Black, including the secret levels you have to unlock through the challenge modes. So here we go. Starting out with the very first map that you start out with in the campaign is Junkyard. This map, I think, is notorious for a lot of reasons. A lot of people think Twisted Metal Black is the most difficult game in the entire series, so this is probably the #1 level that they remember because it's the one you're going to play the most when you have to restart from scratch. And the Junkyard is a very good map, don't get me wrong. I actually really like this level. I like the atmosphere. I love the rain effects. I love that you can destroy a plane in the distance that unlocks a whole separate section that then unlocks Yellow Jacket as a playable character. And there's even a crushing machine that can do damage to you and opponents. There's a lot of cool elements to this level that make it feel dynamic, and it really brings you into that next generation of the PlayStation 2 capability for Twisted Metal. If I was to look for any critiques for this level, I would say that it is a little bit on the difficult side in the sense that it's a little bit hard to see sometimes, especially with the really heavy rain effects and that it takes place at night. Granted, I think every level in this game pretty much takes place at night, except for snowy roads for the most part. But even levels like Downtown have rain effects, but just not to this degree. I don't know if it was just something that they may have missed in the Q&A before launching the game to the public, but Junkyard does get pretty hard with its visibility at times, which is kind of a bummer. But that's really my only gripe with the entire level. So because of that, I can't give it the pristine S tier ranking. However, I am going to let it be sitting very comfortably at the A tier. Next up is Freeway. This is the second level in the tournament, depending on if you choose Freeway or the Suburbs. And the Freeway, in my opinion, is the lesser of choice between the Suburbs because it just feels a little bit too empty. I like the idea of a giant freeway system that's free-flowing, kind of like David Jaffe talked about in their ideas for Twisted Metal Harbor City, but sadly, it just didn't come to fruition. That game was canceled right out the gate, and so we never got to see a free-flowing freeway system in a Twisted Metal game, and this is kind of the closest I think we'll ever get to that. It is a large level, don't get me wrong. It has a lot of different freeway sections to drive around on. You can even go off a jump and break into a building. There's even like a random like go-kart section going on in this like down valley area. There's a lot of cool areas in this level, but it just, I don't know, bland is like the only word that comes to mind. The only real thing exciting about this level is that you can unlock Axel in it. And by God, is it a difficult challenge to do so. It is hair-pullingly frustrating. But that being said, yeah, it's a giant level. It's got a lot to see, but it still, to me, just feels pretty bland. I also do want to complain about the lack of weapon pickups and health pickups on this level. I don't know what it is, but I always feel like Freeway, I just am always out of ammo and I'm always out of health, no matter what I do. So for me, I'm going to have to put Freeway at a C tier. Next up is Prison Passage. This is a fan favorite, and for a lot of good reasons. The coolest thing about this level is just the dynamic nature of it. It's essentially 3 levels in one. You start out at this very confined, very small arena-based combat, just like in the very first Twisted Metal, in this little tiny room versus 2 opponents. You have to fight to survive by basically just kind of running away for the first 30 or 45 seconds, and then after that time passes, you actually get to access the rest of the ship by the doors opening up. Once you're outside, you get access to the entire ship level, Essentially, you get an extra level above the ship section, you get the main level, and then you can keep jumping in and out of that main section you started out in, while you can see the area around the ship moving because you are going to be docking into the prison passage asylum, which is pretty cool. I love that you can see the level moving around you. It really makes it feel like a very grand adventure into one level. And then once you dock, it opens up to a massive level overall. It's just a huge map. There's so much to see, there's so much to do, and there's even like a blimp you can shoot down. It also can electrify enemies. It opens up to 2 different charging pads and even a bridge, that section that opens up more health. There's a lot of great things about this level. However, I do have 1, maybe 2 gripes with it. The first gripe is that this level is, I don't know what it is, but it is the most difficult one in the entire tournament, in my opinion. More difficult than any of the bosses or any other level. It's just something about this one always gets me stuck in every playthrough, and I have to restart it multiple times. It might just be because there's too many enemies at once. It might be because you're stuck in this confined area at the beginning that's really tough to stay alive because there's no actual full health recharge pads. You have to just deal with what you got. There's a couple of factors that could pertain to that, I don't know, but for some reason Prison Passage is by far the hardest level in the game. But does difficulty really make me move it down a notch? I'm not going to say so. I don't think that's really fair, because some people might think this level is pretty easy. Those people are psychopaths in my eyes because this level is insanely difficult, but, you know, take what I say with a grain of salt. But that being said, the other gripe I have with this level is, I don't know what it is, but I just don't think there was enough weapon pickups around the level, and it just seems too big. I know I kind of praised it for how large this level was and how many cool dynamic features there are, and don't get me wrong, I think it is a marvel, and it's a huge achievement in a Twisted Metal game to have a level like this. I'm not gonna, stray away from that, but I gotta say that it is a little bit too large for my liking. There's just too much open space, there's too much sections where you're not finding any enemies, and on top of that, it just seems dead at times. There's like no areas to find weapons sometimes, and then thus you don't have enough to go into battle with, and that's what makes it so damn difficult. And because it's so large, it takes a really long time to reach those charging pads in dire moments. So preferably, I like the medium to smaller size maps overall, but Prison Passage, it definitely has a special place in my heart. I know this is going to upset a lot of people by not giving it the S tier ranking, but I am going to definitely give it the A tier, and I definitely think it deserves that. Next up is the Skyscrapers level. This is kind of one of those ones where every Twisted Metal essentially has to have some type of skyscraper level. You know that they're just as frustrating as they are cool and interesting. My only issue with Skyscrapers is that there's not much to look at in this one. I feel like every skyscraper level in Twisted Metal has always had some really cool scenery and really amazing backdrops, and if you were to fall off the level, it didn't make you too upset because you were able to see the city below you, and it just was really cool. But in this time, I feel like the Skyscrapers is the most bland of all of the ones in every Twisted Metal game. It's just something about it. It might just be the color palette of black. I don't know what it is. It's just really bland. There is some cool sections and secret areas to find in this level, don't get me wrong. I think it has a really good flow and layout to it. And in my opinion, this is one of the easiest skyscraper levels in the entire series in terms of like not falling off by accident, stuff like that. In the video here, I purposely chose a very difficult character to play this level with because their special literally throws them off the level sometimes. But that being said, you can still have a very good time on this level without much issue or fatigue or frustration, just because I think the layout is pretty simple. It's not really too difficult to understand. It kind of reminds me of Twisted Metal 3's Tokyo, where I feel that level was laid out in a way where, yes, there's a lot of jumps and there's a lot of ways to fall down in the lava, but they could have made the lava an insta-kill, and I feel it would have made a lot more sense because of the layout of the level not being too difficult, or like, haha, you jumped over this that looked like a regular jump, but now you're screwed and falling to your death. You don't have that issue here either, so I have to give them a little bit of a leg up for that, for making it an enjoyable experience. But because of the bland nature of it, and it just being a lesser version of the other skyscraper levels, I'm sadly going to have to play this in the meh/B category. Next up is Downtown. This is another fan favorite. I think a lot of people really love this level, and to be honest, I don't see the appeal. I've never really hated this map per se. I just think it's pretty bland. I think it's pretty boring. There's just nothing too exciting or new or interesting to find here. There's one secret section you can find where you break down a wall and you can go up an elevator and you're on like a separate above section above the city, and that's pretty neat, but that's pretty much it. Everything else, it's relatively a ripoff of one of the very first levels in the very first Twisted Metal. So in that, it's just kind of bland. It's just 2 cityscape areas and then a little valley and a river in the middle and a couple bridges. Nothing too crazy to write home about here. I don't think it's a bad level. I think it's a great size. I think it's like a perfect size for a Twisted Metal map. So I'm going to have to put it in the B tier just because it's not amazing. It's not great. It's just kind of meh. Next up is Highway Loop. Now this one is kind of a unique level. It's a lot like the original highway level in Twisted Metal 1, where it's a perfect circle essentially, and it's on one specific highway. However, they fixed the issues I had with that level in the very first game, where the level is wide enough and has enough obstacles to essentially get around your enemy and find cover and whatnot without having to too much issue or feel like you can't get away in a pinch. There's even like an area where you can jump over a gap in the road and thus the enemy can fall through and get killed and you can insta kill, and it feels amazing. It's really cool. There's even a section where the highway actually broke apart and kind of falls away to a bottom layer. There's some cool, unique features here, and even though it is a relatively smaller level compared to the rest in the game, Highway Loop just flows really well. I don't know how to explain it. It just feels really good. But I feel like Highway Loop has a lot of haters out there. A lot of people seem to really dislike this one. I don't really see why. I personally have a lot of fun on it. So Highway Loop, the only issue I have with it is it kind of has a little bit too much of the same going around it. There's not a whole lot of variety, and it is a smaller level. Also, not enough weapon pickups, like I stated before on some of their levels. But you do have one cool, unique feature where you can knock down one of these smokestacks and then thus open up a secret section of the level to unlock another level for the challenge modes, which is pretty dope. It's just a neat little thing you can find, a little Easter egg essentially. But that being said, Highway Loop, it's still not good enough to be S tier for me, but it is definitely an A tier level. Next up is Snowy Roads. Now this is one that I think is going to turn some heads and maybe piss off some people, more than likely, especially one individual I'm actually going to call out. I don't want to start any YouTube drama or anything like that, but if you guys know Tactical Bacon Productions, he's a really big YouTuber, especially in the Twisted Metal space. I absolutely adore his videos. I've been a subscriber of him for many years. However, I gotta say, the guy does not know what he's talking about when he disses Snowy Roads and he praises Drive-In Movie. We'll get to that in a second. That being said though, Snowy Roads is an amazing level. I absolutely love this map. I have a great time every single time. Every tournament, I always choose Snowy Roads over Drive-In Movie. I'll tell you why. The major thing with Snowy Roads is the atmosphere for me. I think it's just the contrast of, there's so much darkness in Twisted Metal Black, you know, obviously. But going to this level, it's just that bright white of the snow and just the desolate nature of that blizzard on this really winding road up on the mountaintops. It just gives you such a weird, unique, but horrific feeling the entire time that I can't get enough of. Also, the soundtrack. This has my favorite song in the entire game by far. It's so hauntingly beautiful. I just can't put into words how it's so good. I could literally go into this level with no enemies and just sit there and just sit in awe at the atmosphere and just take it all in and enjoy it. That being said though, how does it flow as a level? I think it's just fine. I don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's breaking any new ground. There's not even any really like secret areas you can find. There's a couple little sections on the bottom of the, like where you could almost fall off the mountain. There's like some areas down there you can find for some extra pickups and health, stuff like that. But other than that, there's no real secret sections to this one. It's pretty simple. It's pretty much just like 2 cul-de-sacs on the end of each road, like dead ends essentially. And then you have a couple mountain areas you can jump up and jump around people and stuff like that. But I think the major thing for me is the atmosphere here and just the way the environments look. It's a breathtakingly beautiful level, so I gotta give it a leg up to an A. Next up is the one that I talked about a little bit before, which is Drive-In Movie. And this is why I wanted to bring up Tactical Bacon Productions, because he rated this as one of the best maps in the entire series of Twisted Metal. Not just Black, but in the entire series. I don't know. I facepalmed so hard when I saw his video about that, because I just don't get it. I really don't. Maybe somebody can explain it better in the comments why he thinks that, or maybe why you think Drive-In Movie is so damn good. but I absolutely hate this level. I understand that people like smaller levels in Twisted Metal. I understand they like close quarter combat, and they like the frantic nature of that. That is fine. But you know what other levels you get that in? Junkyard, Snowy Roads, and Highway Loop. All three amazing maps, in my opinion, A-tier maps, and you get that same experience but without the frustration. Drive-In Movie is frustrating because not only is it the smallest level, so you're more confined than those other three I just named, but there's no full health pickups. You have to deal with only 2 or 3 regular health pickups in this level, and especially if you're playing on hard mode, forget about it. They're basically useless. So good luck with only having 3 lives going against 8 opponents on this very tiny level that barely gives you any health or really anywhere to hide. There's no secret level areas to get into. There's nowhere to hide, essentially. It's a tiny little jump at the end of it, and that's it. There's nothing here. So, in my opinion, it's a lazy level. I think if you enjoy this one, that's fine. I don't think you're an idiot or anything. It's just, I don't get it. I personally do not get it. So, for me, I know this one's going to piss off a lot of people, but Drive-In Movies, it's straight up trash. Next up is Minion Stadium. Now this is essentially not really a level, just like Warhawk's level, right? His fight. They're not really a map per se. It's more of just in a battle arena for a boss. However, I wanted to put it in here because you can play it in the challenge mode with up to 8 characters, and it becomes pretty hectic. And in my opinion, it's literally just a little bit of a larger Drive-In Movie. Not much of a difference. There's no full health pickups just like Drive-In Movie. But there is more health pickups this time around, and there's a lot more regular weapon pickups to make it a little bit easier. But my god, it's still a hectic time if you're going against regular characters and not just Minion as a boss. So I'm going to have to bump it up to a C tier, just above trash, mainly because I do think it is a better version of Drive-In Movie. And last, but certainly not least, and I think a lot of you know where this is going, is Suburbs. This level, it holds a special place in my heart. I don't know why. I think it's just when you've first beat Junkyard, especially if it's your first time playing this game, trust me, you're not going to beat Junkyard in your first try. You're going to repeat it over and over and over again until you finally beat it and you can move on to the next level. You have the choice of Suburbs or the Freeway, but if you choose the Suburbs, this is a level that will just be ingrained in your memory for as long as you can live. It's just such a massive undertaking in terms of scale. And the fact that this level runs so smoothly as it does with a pretty big draw distance is amazing in itself. There's so many houses you can crash through. There's a giant Ferris wheel you can break off its hinges and it rolls into the ocean. There's a whole cityscape area where you can jump onto the rooftops and you can electrify enemies with a thunderstorm. There's an insane asylum thing you can break through and get health in there. And there's even like a convenience store on the other side of the level where you can get some extra health and completely break through it to get extra ammo. It is a massive level, to say the least. I don't think it's as big as Prison Passage. I think it's just barely smaller, but in a good way. Because like I said, I think Prison Passage is just a little bit over the line of being too big. And don't get me wrong, there are sections in Suburbs where you can get away from all the enemies, and it might be a little bit tough to find people from time to time. But for the most part, you'll stay in the action, and it just has a really good flow to it. I like where all the weapon pickups are scattered. I like where the health pickups are scattered. I think they're spread out enough to where it takes a little bit of skill to memorize where everything is, but they're not so spread out to where it's frustrating or like too far away to where you can't reach it in time for a crucial moment. So for me, Suburbs gets the coveted S tier. And that, again, that just because it has a special place in my heart. I love the flow of this level. It's a huge map with a lot to see, a lot to do, a lot of little secrets here and there, and it's just a fun level to play on. I really have no gripes that I can really think of when it comes to Suburbs. So that's why it gets my S tier rating. So that is my full tier list of the levels of Twisted Metal Black. I want to remind everybody, once again, my list, in my opinion, does not matter. If you don't agree with me, that is 1000% a-okay. Let me know what your full tier list is in the comment section below, or make sure to join the community Discord and check the description below for the link to this tier list that I made myself. Make sure to take a screenshot of your tier list and post it in the community Discord. We love to see it. As well as, I do want to reiterate that this is only taking into account the single player Twisted Metal. This has nothing to do with the multiplayer, so if the levels are different in any way, shape, or form for Twisted Metal Black Online, they were not taken into consideration here. Sorry if that pisses off anybody, but that's just the way it is. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like, share, support as always. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We'll hopefully see you in the next one. Peace out. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of the video. Before we head out, I want to give a huge special thank you to our channel members. These are amazing people who are wanting to support the channel and the content here. And if you want to do the same, you can click the little join button underneath every single new upload. And becoming a channel member not only supports me and the channel, but also gives you a ton of perks in doing so, including early access to new content and being a part of exclusive polls and information that other people would not be able to access. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you again so much for the love and support, and we'll hopefully see you in the next one. Peace out.